Hi, and welcome back to the Mom and Mind podcast. This is another episode of Behind the Sessions. Um, and with what I'm going to talk about today, I don't really have a sense of where I'm going to go yet with it. So you're going to be on the journey with me. But I'm bringing something to the forefront that I've been hearing a lot of lately, and that has to do with relationships. Sadly, a lot of the people that I meet with in therapy, not everybody, but a lot of women who are coming in for therapy. Initially, they're coming in for perinatal mental health condition, depression, anxiety, OCD, those kinds of things, um, PTSD for sure, birth trauma, um, and sometimes part of what is contributing to how they are feeling or worsening how they're feeling is their relationship with their significant other, their partner, their husband. Um, and that doesn't always come out as the first thing they're coming in to therapy for. Sometimes, after initial symptoms um, have improved, or we've gotten to them to a place where they feel a little bit more stable and the intensity of how they're feeling has lessened, other stuff comes out about their marriage. Um, and I guess it must have been last week in particular, mm, maybe even the week before that. Person after person after person were talking to me about how their partners are treating them. Um, Now, me as a therapist, I'm meeting with just one person. I'm meeting with the person who I'm meeting with. So I'm not necessarily also meeting with the husband or the partner. However, I absolutely do um, have the partner welcome the partner into the session so we can talk about, not for therapy because I don't do therapy with a couple. I do the therapy with the individual, but I'll invite the husband or the partner or the spouse in um, as a way to talk about, like, help them understand what's going on for their wife, um, to answer any questions for them about perinatal mental health conditions or depression or anxiety. Sometimes it's a discussion about problem solving, like, how are we going to get her or you both more sleep. It could be about postpartum planning, planning for the health and wellness of mom after baby comes home, or the family unit when there's transitioning into having a baby, those kinds of things. So sometimes I do get to meet the partner, um, but what I hear is what people tell me, and um, as a therapist, I'm very well aware that I'm hearing one side of the story for the most part. However, I maybe it's just with the clients that I meet with. A lot of women that I meet with are also talking about their husband or their partner's experience. So, like, they are, meaning they are aware that their husband or partner might also be suffering with something, might be struggling with something. Um, my clients are, like, often very hopeful that their partner, their husband, will go to therapy to get help with the thing that they're struggling with. So I do get some, not just one person's perspective. I get the perspective of somebody who cares a lot about their partner and who's very frustrated that their partner isn't getting their own help. That's just a common thing that we discuss in therapy. But what was so upsetting to me, and so worrisome, bothersome, is just how mean it sounded like the partners were being. And mean, from what, again, I try to really think about the system, even when I'm talking to the one person. Um, and also, I believe women. I believe what they tell me. I believe their experience. I believe that when they tell me that they're being talked to in a certain way, that's how they're being talked to. Um, there's just so much of you know, gaslighting or manipulating women into thinking that, they're not experiencing what they're experiencing. They're not feeling what they're feeling. Or if they are feeling it, it's because there's something wrong with them. That there's mm, that their experience can't just be what it is. So the things that I was hearing from my clients about how mean their partners were being to them just made me sad, really, really sad and really, really angry, on their behalf. I want to take it just a step back and talk about this idea of gaslighting. It's been used more and more. It's a more known concept now, just in you know day to day life. People use it, but what like gaslighting is a psychological manipulation, and it's not always used purposefully, although sometimes it is. But the end result is to have somebody, um, the person who is being gaslit starts to have doubts about their own emotional, mental stability, what they see as truth. They might start to have thoughts like, my gosh, maybe I did say that, or maybe I didn't say that, when their partner or somebody else questions them or questions their experience. So that over time, sometimes right away, but over time, the person who's being gaslit starts to question themselves in a lot of different ways. So, for instance, if my client is telling me that their husband um, told them that they didn't love them anymore, like I'm just using a random example. This is not something that happened in session. Partner said, "I don't love you anymore." So my client hears that, and then tells me that later on that there was a further discussion or argument about that statement, and the my client says to their partner, "You told me that you didn't love me anymore," and their partner husband says, "No, I didn't say that. I never said that." Um, So that is a small example of gaslighting. Now I'm not talking about when like somebody forgot that they said it or thought they said something else. Typically, if somebody can take responsibility, even though they're like, gosh, I don't, if somebody can say, let's say a partner can say, I don't remember saying that, but if I did, I'm so sorry. That's not gaslighting. Um, or they thought they said something in a different way, but it still had the same meaning. What I'm talking about is like an outright denial that they said what they said, um, and which results in um, my client feeling like they have to question themselves, like, oh gosh, maybe he didn't really say that, or maybe I'm making that up. But the net effect is that the person who's being gaslit can't believe their own truth and their own reality in the same way anymore. And that, to say the least, really weighs down on somebody over time. It can lead to feeling like you're losing your mind, like you're depressed. It can leave you feeling anxious and on edge. Um, a lot of people feel like they have to tiptoe and not say the wrong thing, whatever, without knowing what the quote unquote wrong thing is. Um, and honestly, it's a form of emotional abuse that I hear quite a lot, sadly. And so I'm not going to get into all forms of abuse that happens in relationships right now, but I do want to highlight this one because just of how much I've been hearing it, and how devastating it is to the connection in the relationship, the trust in the relationship. Chances are, if this has been happening for a long time, um, trust is not there or barely there. Uh, and it's really hard to come back from this. So the people that I'm meeting with, the women I'm meeting with, I want desperately for there to be like a good connection with their spouse and with their partner. Want to feel connected, want to be connected, want to have a healthy relationship. So a lot of our individual sessions, me working with them directly, are spent trying to figure out how to cope with the relationship that they're in, how to set boundaries with their partner, how to begin to believe themselves again, um, how to communicate in a way that is um, clear for themselves and their partner, how to communicate to their partner their concern for them. So, meaning like my clients, I can think of so many, not even just the ones currently that I'm meeting with, who desperately, desperately want their husbands to get help, seek additional help, so that their husbands can feel better, so that their marriage can feel better, so that they can get back to, how they wanted to be as a couple. And, there are loads and loads and loads of reasons why a husband in this case, might be showing up like this. Parenthood brings up a lot of stuff, and it can bring up unresolved things from their own past. Um, they can have their own husbands can have their own trauma related to birth. They can have their own difficulties with their own parents that are impacting this like current marriage, and all of those things are understandable. But what is hard is if me and the person I'm working with, the mom I'm working with, the woman I'm working with, we can sit and try and understand and theorize and wonder like why he's behaving the way he's behaving so that I can help my client cope with it. But there also comes a time where, okay, we've done as much contextualizing as possible. Meanwhile, please be sure that I am encouraging them to be in couples therapy. It's also sometimes very hard to get a partner into couples therapy. That's just a real thing. So, um, I'm trying to the problem is in the marriage. One person can only work on their side of the marriage for so long. So I can help my clients kind of see where they might be contributing or how they might be able to change how they communicate or what of their own past trauma is contributing to how they respond to their partner. This is a lot of what happens in individual therapy, at least in my sessions with my clients. We can work on that to a point, and then at some point it has to be worked out within the couple, and or the husband has to go get his own help in order for there to be movement forward in the marriage or partnership. I'm telling you women out there right now who are listening, there is only so much you can do on your end by yourself to get your marriage to a point. The reason I'm saying this is because I see over and over and over again women bending over backwards to try and do everything they can do to get their marriage back on track. And sometimes their husband isn't also participating. There's just like a truth in there, a reality in there that like we've been conditioned as women to try and try and try and fix and fix and fix to the point where it breaks us. And then we feel bad when things aren't working. And unfortunately, I'm going to overgeneralize that men have been conditioned out of their feelings, meaning like from childhood, they're told they can't cry, which, can mean don't be in touch with your feelings, with that, and that crying is weak and that emotions are weak. So if we're dealing with let's say again, overgeneralizing, guys that are out of touch with their emotional state, do not um have any sense that uh their emotional state, mental state is impacting um anybody else, because they maybe were not taught that that happens, that like we affect each other in these ways. And you have a woman working and working and working to try and make things okay. um there it's just a tension filled marriage. There's a lot of arguing, and frankly women get burnt out. Like, if I could have it my way, I would have the woman be in therapy. I'm talking about heterosexual couples, but this is true for all couples, all partnerships, all relationships, really. But if, let's say, for sake of conversation, the woman goes to therapy. This is in a partnership. Woman goes to therapy, man goes to therapy, and they go to therapy together. That sounds like a lot of therapy. But if I can be so frank as to say, what the fuck else are we doing here? What are we doing here? Why are why are we wasting time, wasting effort, wasting energy if we're not here to heal from whatever our shit is, um, to try and have a better quality of life and to try and make the quality of the life of our children better? What are we doing? I get it. I understand, like, talking about feelings is really hard. Talking about emotional stuff is really challenging. Sifting through your own trauma from your own childhood, the own like neglect from your own parents, the abuse from your own parents, the dynamics from your own family of origin, all of that stuff sucks. It's very hard to deal with. And when you don't deal with it, when you don't figure out how to heal from it, or at least understand how all of that stuff is impacting you personally, individually, and in your marriage, and in relationships with your kids, what are we doing? That is a noble goal in my mind. It's a worthwhile pursuit. And I'm not saying there's like a pot of gold at the end of this rainbow. It is hard work, and you don't get to a place where you're just done and everything's peachy all the time. But the ease of life that happens after you've done work on yourself and in your relationships is worth it, and it's palpable, and I see it. I see it for um people whose part okay. There's some really great examples. I can't really say too much, but some really great examples of clients of mine who've gone to couples therapy with their partner, with their husband, and their husband gets to a place where like it clicks, where they get it, where they see like, oh, this is why I feel this way, and um, then things shift and change, or they learn something new about themselves. They have an insight that helps them feel better, which makes them feel better in the marriage. The amount of relief that comes with that, um, for everyone is just amazing. And I wish that for everyone. When I have my clients talking to me about their husband's behavior, and that their husband's behavior sounds abusive, it sounds, emotionally abusive, it sounds destructive. Um, what I hear is the husband is stuck, is, suffering, is, um, not able to or doesn't have the support of, other people in their life to work through this. I don't hear like, "Oh, he's just a jerk." While there may be a jerk behavior happening, there's usually something going on. Um, there's stuff that's unhealed and unprocessed. And that stuff for any person, when it's unhealed and unprocessed and festering down there are ways in which it impacts how you move through the world, how you think about yourself, how you are in relation to other people, um, that you may not even know. You may not even notice are happening. It's just so sad. Like, ultimately, I feel really sad for these husbands because they don't know that their suffering um, can lessen. They don't know that they can have a better quality of marriage, a better relationship, if they can go and kind of deal with some of their own stuff and then work together in couples therapy to also feel better and feel more connected. And ultimately, and I am not far off on this, ultimately, that's what everybody wants is connection and closeness and to feel understood and to feel heard and to feel seen and to feel loved. Um, and a lot of these husbands that I hear about are are behaving in a way that ends up pushing away that thing that they want the most. Women do this too, like for sure. Um, but I'm wanting to share it in from this perspective because I'm pretty sure it's, a lot of women listen to this podcast. And a lot of women, especially in this reproductive phase of life, experience something like this or similar to this or some flavor of this at some point because it is just that hard. Having kids changes everything. I can, anyways. The relationship dynamic changes, priorities change, stressors change, the to-do lists change. And for a lot of people, many people, high percentage of people, their marriages suffer because of this transition. That is in some way, can be preventable with a little bit of work beforehand or having the right help during, having a good game plan. And there are lots of things you can do. And this is without depression or anxiety or trauma. The early years are hard because they're hard. And then if you add in all of this undealt with, unprocessed stuff from your childhood, now I'm talking about everybody, um, it it when we are tired and when we're vulnerable and when we are learning new things, when we don't know which way is up, we revert back to old patterns, old behaviors, older vulnerabilities of, a time in our life when things weren't stable. Kind of like a shorthand. What were my like go-to coping skills when I was in a traumatic environment? That's the stuff that comes up when it feels like you're in chaos. Unless there's been a lot of intentional work to develop new and different skills. So, my point for talking about this is because it was hitting me in the face for a week or two, just story after story after story of heartbreak from the women that I was meeting with about the behavior from their husbands and their husbands' behavior having such an impact on them that they feel their marriage is broken, that there's no hope, that they've tried everything that they can try, that if X, Y, or Z happens one more time from their husband, then they're out. They can't handle it anymore. Um, and I also know that their husbands, to whatever degree, are suffering also, but don't have the skills or tools or resources to get themselves out of it. And also either haven't found a therapist that's right for them or won't go to therapy individually. Maybe we'll go as a couple. I'm not coming today with some like big solutions, although I told you that I think some of the solution is getting into individual therapy and couples therapy. It just was, like I said, hitting me so much in the face that how frequently this is happening for people that it felt like something I had to talk about here. Because the whole point of this podcast and these conversations are to put this stuff out there, that it is happening, that this stuff does happen, that people are suffering. And the more you suffer in silence, the more you think it's just you, the more isolated and alienated you feel, the worse you're going to feel. So it is part of my professional goal to make sure that these conversations are being had, that we can at least, um, that I can at least speak out loud about it and share it out there so that if there's something in here that resonates for you, there's something in here that's useful for you that can help you in your next step of healing, then great. There's also some part of my own history and my own trauma uh, where I am highly motivated to, when I see that something's happening and there's some like shame or secrecy or whatever around it, I'm like, oh, all right, well, then let's talk about it. Let's get it way out there. Um, I'm deeply motivated by taking stuff out of the shadows and putting it out there and normalizing it so that you out there know that it exists. And as I said, in all honesty, it is part of my response to my own history, my own trauma from long time ago, that things need to be out in the open. Things need to be discussed and talked about, and um, whoever and however those things are that are staying in the shadows, they don't get to win. That doesn't get to win. Not with me. So it's one of the reasons why I think healing is so cool. My own stuff, but also how I see other people heal. I know it's possible. I know healing can happen. I know for my clients who are struggling with their partners, whatever it is that their decision ends up being, I know that their partners can feel better, can heal. I know when I'm helping my clients set new boundaries, there comes a time where your boundaries have to be clear enough so that your partner can bump up against them and see what their own part in this is. The more you take care of everything, the less they're going to change. The more enabled they will be to continue their behavior. That's while it's very difficult to set new boundaries and um, stop taking care of so many things in order to like make them feel better, so that they don't get mad. The worse off you both are, really. Anyways, that was a little sidestep, but it is a place that we eventually get to in therapy where setting those boundaries is as much a part of self-care as it is love and care for your partner. So, thanks for walking with me along on this journey today. As I said, I didn't know where this was going to go today. Um, I'm doing a lot of thinking while I'm talking about stories that I've heard throughout years of doing this as a therapist. Um, I want it to be very clear that I have compassion for all parties involved in what I'm discussing. And I really, really hope that people go to therapy and deal with their stuff. It's just enough suffering. I would much rather you go to therapy, deal with stuff in a more concentrated way where you're like having realizations, making connections, realizing that you can change, forgiving yourself for moving past whatever the thing is for you. Do it in a concentrated way now. Move through it so you don't have to do it for the rest of your life like this. That's my hope. That's my hope for husbands, male partners, uh, that they can get the help that they need so they can stop suffering as well. Anyways, there's so much more in there that I could say, but thanks for going along with me on this journey today. I hope some part of it has been helpful for you. And if you think it would be helpful to share with your partner, go right ahead. Or just parts of it to share with your partner, definitely go right ahead. These are hard discussions to have and to hear and to come to terms with. But I do firmly, strongly believe that healing is available to everyone and you can live an easier, better, more fulfilled life if you seek that healing out. Anyways, thanks for being with me today. If you're not yet a subscriber to the Mom and Mind podcast, make sure you go to your favorite listening platform and hit follow or subscribe. And most definitely leave a review. It is vitally important that we get reviews so that people can know what you think about the podcast and get a sense for themselves if it's right for them as well. Thank you so much for being with me. Until next time.